In this video, I'll show you how to paint a Stormcast Eternal. Let's get going with this Stormcast Eternal. So this is a Sequitor, and basically all the techniques I'm going to use on this model you'll be able to use on all the Stormcast range. There's a nice variety of materials and weapons on this. And what I would say, if you're painting loads and loads of Stormcast, get the Retributor Armour spray. It's so much easier, and you won't have to do this first step. So I've gone with a black undercoat, and I'm just taking some Retributor Armour paint, and we're just going to put this on all the bits that we want to be gold. So we've got the little bits of armour that we can see kind of sticking out. And if you're not sure what needs to be gold, just check the box art and just follow along with that. And as you can see, it's not covering fantastically well. It never will directly over black, so just take your time, work your way around the model. I need a better paintbrush. This one is coming at the end of its life, I think. And just make sure you get all those bits of gold. You'll probably need to do 2 coats, so make sure the first coat's completely dry, and then come back in to get a nice solid all over gold coat. Once you've got that gold on, it's gone on in 2 coats. We're going to leave the gold for now. We'll go back to it later. The reason I base coat it is because we don't really want to worry about going in and making mistakes over a finished metal, because we've got quite a lot to do in the meantime. So next up, we're going to get the robes done, or the blue robes. So for this, we're using Kantor Blue, and you can probably see there as well, it's going over black, so it's not covering perfectly first time. So all that means is that, again, we'll give it 2 thin coats. Just work our way around. And in terms of what we're actually going to cover in the Canto Blue, we've got this here, we've got the shoulder pads. So again, when you get to that kind of gold bit, just take your time, be careful, because you don't want to paint over any gold you've already put on there. This isn't covering too badly, actually. We've also got the shield as well. So again, just work your way around the shield, being careful not to paint over any of the gold. If you do happen to paint over any of the gold, it's okay, it's not the end of the world. We can just put the gold back in later when we come to kind of the last stage, because the armour's the last stage that we'll actually do. And that's the main reason why we don't finish the gold straight out of the bat. So work your way around the model, get all this Canto Blue on. Like I said, you will have to put 2 coats in some places. Some places you might get away with 1. And then we'll come back and we'll start to block in some of the other base colours as well. Next up, I'm going to base the cloth that covers the chest, and the kind of like a tabard. So I'm going to use Rakarth Flesh for this, and this going over black, of course. You're going to need more than 1 coat. Be careful when you get down to the kind of bits that intersect with the blue, because we don't want to spill over, and same with the gold there. You see there, that'll dry fairly opaque, but we will need to pop a little bit more Rakarth Flesh over. So just work your way around, cover the front of the tabard there. And the other thing we're going to do as well, we're going to cover the inside lining of the robes. Now this will be a lighter colour, kind of more of a white colour in the end, but by just popping this down first, whilst we've got the paint on the palette, it does make it that little bit easier then when we come to actually put the white over it in the future. Okay, so work your way around, get those 2 coats on, and we'll come back and we'll kind of get in towards the point where we're ready to start detailing some stuff. 2 coats of Rakarth Flesh covered that quite nicely, so we'll get the silver metallics done next. So I'm using iron hand steel for this, and if you're not sure again which bits you're painting silver, just check the box art. You can see there I've probably thinned this down a little too much. That's okay, that'll dry, and then we'll be able to go in and give a second coat just to get the effect that we want. We've also got little bits of silver, so we've got these bits of iconography chain as well. If we want to colour in, we've got the handle on the shield. So all these bits, just take your time because you don't want to go over anything you've already done. We've got the anvil on the helmet decoration, and of course we've got all the studs on the robe there, on the decoration there. So work your way around, get those done as well. And on the back of the shield we've got the anvil and lightning bolt, which we'll do as well. So take your time. Looks like we're going to need 2 coats of this, but that's fine. It's always the peril of starting with black. But I'll work my way around, get them done, and we'll come back and we'll start to add some depth with some washes. With the silver dry, the first thing I want to do is use some Nuln Oil, and I want to use this to shade down the blue. And this is really straightforward, so just pop it on there like that and work it down into the creases. Now I don't want too much Nuln Oil. We'll go back in with some Canto Blue afterwards just to kind of brighten it back up. This just gives us those deepest kind of recesses to enable us to get some contrast in the model. And then we've just got that little bit in there, look, with the metallics and the kind of buttons, I guess. Just take your time working your way in there. We've got these parts on the front. There we can kind of go all over the silver as well. And when you put in the Nuln Oil over the chain, just take your time, because you don't really want to spill any onto the tabard, because we're going to shade that with a different colour. If you do shade it and it looks awful, then just go back in with that Rakarth Flesh and tidy it up. So we've got the back there, we've got the metallics on the shield as well. So basically what you're going for all the metallics, all the bits that are Cantor Blue, and let that dry. We'll come back and we'll start on the next stage, which I think will be getting that tabard finished. Now that Nuln Oil is dry, we can go in and we can start to highlight the blues. We start with Canto Blue. We just want to look at all these kind of raised bits, things like that coming down there. They're really going to kind of jump out and catch the light. Now we're not going to put a huge amount on, because what you'll find is that Nuln Oil has actually shaded the blue really nicely. We just want to get a chunky light in there, because we'll come in with some finer highlights with brighter colours in a mo once we've kind of got this done. So just work your way around any big bits, chunky bits of blue that you think need a bit of a highlight, get in there. I've got a little bit to do on the shield there, just because that kind of part of the shield will be catching a bit more light. So we are, work your way around, make sure you've got everything done with that. We'll come back ready for the next highlight colour. The first highlight colour we're going to use is Alaitoc Blue. Now where you can, you want to, like on the shoulder pad here for example, you want to use the shape of the model to just drag the brush along, because that just makes it easier to get a nice sharp edge highlight. So you get them there. When it comes to the material, you know, you just want to keep it tidy. Drop some lines in there like that. I'll just show you part of these because I'll finish most of them off camera. I just want to kind of show you where I'm going with the highlights. So all the raised areas. So you got the knee in there, look. Don't worry if it's a little bit too thick, because what we'll do is we'll put a thinner highlight within that, and you can see there it's starting to pop nicely off the canvas. So work your way around the model, any sharp edges, get them in. If you're not sure, have a look at the box art, and then we'll come back and do the next highlight on the blue. The last highlight we'll put on the blue for now is Hoeth Blue. So So this is a lighter blue, and what we want to do with this is we want to use it really thin lines. We want to get them inside that Alaitoc blue. So this is one of those times where we're doing some fine detail work. Just take your time, work it into the highlights. If you're not sure where you should be putting the highlights, then just have a look on the box art, because they've got the models that the heavy metal team painted, and you can see there straight away it's starting to pop out a little bit. Now I wasn't sure if we were going to do an extra highlight, and I think we will, just to make things pop at the edge, so we'll come around to that. But for now, work your way around the model, and everywhere you put that Alaitoc blue, you just pop in the Hoeth Blue on top, just to give even more contrast. Taking your time, working your way around the model, you can see it's starting to jump out and really kind of add something to the blue. And what we'll do, we'll just put one last extreme highlight. I'm going to use Blue Horror for this, and we just want to use it really sparingly, just like that, just on those sharpest edges that are going to catch the light, and where we want to get a little definition. So when it comes to the shoulder guards, we're just using it up the top there. For the shield, we're probably looking at just there where the sharpest points are. So you can work your way around with this. Anywhere you feel that, you know what, I think I could do with a little bit of an extreme highlight in there, just pop it on. Like I said, being really sparing with it, because it is such a brighter colour, and it will just make the contrast on the model jump that little bit much, or that little bit more I should say. We want to use it sparingly, just really on the edges. So work your way around. When you're happy, come back and we'll have a little look at getting the silver highlighted. For the silver highlight, we can use Chrome from Vallejo Model Air, and we're going to use two techniques for this. The first one, like we've done all the way through, is we're just going to run that silver along the edges. It gives us a really nice, straight, sharp highlight. And the other way we're going to do it is where we've got the little studs, we're just going to take a little bit on the brush and we're just going to dot the chrome in there. So this is, you take your time, because you can sometimes slip when doing this. On there. There we are. So work your way around all the silver on the model, just giving it a highlight, and then we'll come back and we'll start work on the tabard. For the tabard, just going to take a little bit of Skeleton Horde contrast paint. Now don't overload your brush with this, we just want to move it on and move it around just like that. So that'll, as it dries, pull into the recesses and give us a really nice effect that'll be easy to kind of highlight up. You want to do the same on this part. What you might find is it might start to pool a little bit in there, so just move it around as much as you can, and then we'll go in and we'll highlight it off. We go and reinstate the kind of the Rakarth Flesh back in there. So always being careful not to go over something you've already painted. Get the back part done, and then make sure that's properly dry before we go back in and start re-highlighting. You can see that Skeleton Horde's given a really nice soft shade to the Rakarth Flesh. So what we want to do is get back on the Rakarth Flesh, and very similar like we did with the blue robes, is we just want to reinstate some of the highest points. So we've got these kind of bits here. I'm going to change my brush actually, like I should have earlier, because that's not, that brush isn't very good anymore. So it's fine for large basing, but it's not so good for any detail. So I just want to, that's better. got a bit more control with that brush. So you can see now, really starting to highlight up. It's really starting to look quite nice. Don't forget, we've also got this part here that we want to highlight back up as well, using Rakarth Flesh, and on the other side. So work your way around, get this highlighted back up, and then we'll come in and we'll give it a little highlight, and then we'll have a look at the inside of the tabard. The last highlight for the tabard is Pallid Wych Flesh, and where you can just move that along the kind of the raised edges and towards the top of the model. You want this to be nice and thin in terms of the lines you're painting, and also in terms of the paint. You can see there it gives a nice effect. And then we just edge underneath like that, and that gives you the kind of the brighter colour tabard, but not as bright as the white we're going to have on the bottom of the cloak. So this, I guess, has more of a kind of a Hessian type effect. And then we've got the main part just on the bottom there, and edge it in like that. So work your way around. If there's any other bits you see that we could do with a little bit of a highlight, using the Pallid Wych Flesh there, for example. Careful not to get it on things you already painted, just to brighten up the edges. And then we'll come back and we'll do the insert next, which is red. So for the insert, we're just going to use a little bit of Mephiston Red. I'm going to be really careful here. So you just want to work it along. Make sure not to get it on anything you've already painted. Just really take your time with this stage. And in terms of how much insert you think you need to paint, it really is entirely up to you. You may think that you can just get away with this bit here, and that's absolutely fine. You may feel adventurous, want to do a little bit more, like in there, for example. It's entirely up to you. Just take your time and be really careful. So I'm going to finish up the inserts, and then we'll have a little think about doing some of the freehand red as well. Once you're happy with that, you can make an attempt at the kind of the freehand if you want. So I'm sticking with my Mephiston Red, and what I'm doing is I've watered it down a bit, and we're going to try and put this line in here. So make sure you've got a good tip on your brush. Paint down to about there, and try and do it in one movement. I'll do the same here. So you can see we've got the line on there. So what we want to do then is we want to join it up. Now I've probably not gone close enough to the stud with both my lines. You see that's quite untidy there now. So what I'm going to do is just take a little more on my brush. Just going to tidy it up this end, make it a little more even, like that. Just want to get that top part there done. So there we are. So I'll go away and tidy it up off camera. We'll put the rest of the markings in, but essentially that's how we're going to do it. And then we'll come back, and next I think we'll do the inside of the cloak here, as well as all the white detail, and then we're not too far off being done. So we're going to base the inside of the robes with Corax White. Now we may need a couple of coats of this, but it should, mean or should go on, I should say, much easier because we put that Rakarth Flesh base down. So it is going to take 2 coats, but we can see there that actually it's going to cover pretty okay. And the other thing we've got to paint is we've got some white bits on the iconography. So we've got the lightning bolt coming out of the hammer here, and we've also got it on the shoulder pad. So like I said, you're probably going to need 2 coats. I'll get the rest of that finished off cam. We'll come back, shade, highlight. We're not too far off getting the gold done and finishing this Stormcast. Apothecary White is dry. Apothecary White. Corax White is dry. Apothecary White is what we're using next. We're just going to pop this over all of the bits we've painted Corax White. Now don't slosh it on, because what we don't want to do is have any ugly bits of pooling Apothecary White. Just take your time working your way around. So there's the inside of the cloak, and we've got the detail on the hammers as well. So let that dry, and we'll come back and highlight it pretty soon. When that Apothecary White is dry, we just want to highlight it a little bit, and we're just looking for those really edges like that just jump up a little bit. And you might find that actually there's not too much highlighting to do at all here. So a little bit of white scar just in there, but we don't need too much at all. That's quite nice, quite simple, just like that. So there we are, that's done. The next thing we want to do is we want to have a look at this vial on the hip there. So the first thing we're going to do, and I should have done this before, I didn't realise, is just going to cover it with Corax White. And don't worry if we go over the strapping too much, because we'll finish that up when we do all the leather next. So I'm going to paint over the strapping there just so I can see where it is, because it's quite difficult looking at it in the dark. So let that dry, give it another coat, and then we'll come back and get the vial finished. Really easy way of doing the vial is just take some Aethermatic Blue contrast paint and just paint it all over. See there, gives you a really nice effect, mimics the box art. Just let that dry. If you want, you can pop a little bit of a white scar highlight on it. I'll see how it dries. But it's looking pretty good. We'll do the leather next, and then we'll finish up with the gold. So we've got 2 bits to do before we go on to the gold. So a bit of Scream of Pink first on the weapon handle, the grip. Just take your time, make sure you don't get it over anything you've already done in gold. It's not a huge problem if you do, because you can go back in and repair anything nice and simply. So just work that on. You may need 2 coats, you may be okay. And then for all the leather parts, I'm going to use some Dryad Bark. So you've got the bits that cover the forearms here. You've got the straps on there, and you've also got the belt around the back there, and the straps that kind of cover the vial, hold the vial in place. Take your time with these because you don't want to make any mistakes, because it'd be a pain to go back in and try and correct any mistakes on the vial. So I'll finish the rest off cam. We'll come back, we'll shade, and then we'll highlight those 2 bits. We'll shade those 2 areas down with some Nuln Oil. So you've got the grip on the handle. It's just to add a little bit of depth. And then you've got the leather as well. Again, this is just adding a little bit of depth before we go in and highlight. So just take your time, work that round, and then we'll come back and we'll drop some highlights in there, and then we are on to the gold. So to highlight up the brown leather. We're going to use a bit of Gorthor Brown. And very similar to how we've done all the other highlighting, what we're doing for this is we're just looking for those raised parts, like that. So you can see that really quickly you get a nice effective kind of dark leather effect there, which is really nice. And we've got the belt to do as well, but before we do that, I'm just going to take some pink horror. That's what I'm going to use to highlight up the handle. So when you've got the handle, you can see the kind of the design and the angle that everything goes, just like that there. So that's nice and straightforward. So just work your way around and get all the bits you need highlighted. Okay, so we're finally onto the gold. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that you've actually gone in and anywhere you spilt paint over the gold, you've just repaired it. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take Reikland Fleshshade and we're just going to work this over all the gold on the model. We don't want it to pool anywhere, so make sure if it does start pooling that you just wick it off. And of course be really careful not to go over any parts that you've already finished. So you need to do this all over the model. Take your time. It can be done quite quick or quite slow, but essentially we just want to save making any silly little mistakes at this point, because there's just more work to go in and fix. So get all that gold covered and we'll come back and start highlighting. Make sure you give the Reikland Fleshshade plenty of time to dry, then we can go about our business highlighting the gold. So we're going to take some Liberator Gold and we want to highlight all the edges. So where you do get edges like this, you just move the brush along the edge and it'll catch. It'll give you a really nice sharp highlight. So you want to do that all the way around, particularly areas like, you know, top of this knee here. Then where you've got something a bit more awkward like these feet, you just pull a line like that and that'll give you a nice little highlight. Same for, so you've got there. Where you've got some parts like the knee, you can just put a circular highlight just in there like that. So work your way around the rest of the model, highlighting all the gold, and then we'll come back, we'll put a final edge highlight, and this model's done. And then once we've finished with that gold, the last thing we're going to do is just take a little bit of chrome, and all we're doing now is we're looking for the absolute sharpest edges. Just going to pop that little bit of chrome on there. And what that'll do is it'll really set the armour off. So you don't want to put too much of this on, just want to put a little bit of, you know, where the light is going to hit the most. And then that's your Stormcast Eternal done. You can go away and base the model any way you want. I'm going to just put a normal rocky base on, I think, but you match it with the rest of your army. And we'll have a look at him on the turntable next. So there we have it. This Stormcast Eternal Sequitor is done and ready for action. Don't forget you can use all the techniques here across the entire Stormcast range. It's really adaptable and you'll get a great looking army if you do. Thanks for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please leave a comment and a like down below. I love getting your feedback because it really does help me keep improving the channel for you. Don't forget you can use the links in the description for my recommended equipment. Otherwise, thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.